All right, in this lesson, we'll talk about assignment and reassignment. Let's say I begin with a simple variable assignment. I have a variable called a, and I've assigned it the value 10. And let's say I want to see what happens when I take a, which is 10, and add 5 to it. If I were to output the result of a plus 5, I'm predictably going to get 15. Hopefully nothing is confusing at this point. Let's say I wanted to take this result and assign it to a brand new variable. Let's say in this case, a represents an age and the a plus 5 represents the age in 5 years. And let's say I want to store that in a variable called b. b equals a plus 5. This hopefully makes sense so far and nothing confusing. Here's where it gets a little bit tricky. This is something when I first saw it as a beginner confused me, but I'll explain why it is perfectly valid in just a second. What if I replace this b with a? People get a little bit confused with it because they look at it and they say a equals a plus 5. How is that possible? The important thing to remember is that whatever happens on the right side of the equal sign, whatever expressions or evaluations are part of the right side, always takes place first. So what you can do for now is completely ignore all this stuff that's going on, the equal sign and the a on the left, and simply analyze what's going on the right. At this point, before we do any assignment, because whatever happens on the right happens first, at this point a is equal to 10. We're taking that 10, we're adding 5 to it, and we're getting 15. So after we've evaluated the right side of this equation, we're getting 15. At that point, we're saying, hey Ruby, we now want a to point to 15 instead of 10. Instead of the original assignment of 10, a is now going to be pointing to 15. So remember, when we're evaluating this, that a here is simply just a placeholder for 10. It's weird seeing the same variable name on both sides of the equal sign, but everything here takes place first. So we're first going to do the math, and once we arrive at the final result, only then is a going to be pointed to it. So if I output a right here, we're going to get 10. If I output a right here, we're going to get 15. Totally fine, totally valid code. Now, there is a shorthand syntax for this operation because it is so common. This equivalent right here of a equals a plus 5 is the same thing as writing a plus equals 5. This is a pretty weird syntax. It's going to take a lot of practice to get used to, but logically it makes sense if you simply read it. What we basically want to do here is to add 5. That's basically the plus sign. That's an indication of some kind of addition operation. We're adding 5, and then we're making it equal to a. So this syntax right here on line 6 is the exact same syntax or the exact same operation as what we're doing on line 5. Different syntax, same result. Here's what I recommend. The best way to practice this is whenever you're writing code and you end up with something like this, it's totally fine to have it written out like that. This is valid Ruby code. But when you're refactoring, which means going through your code and looking for ways that you can optimize, just remember, if you see the same variable on both sides of the equal sign, there's probably a case you can use a shortcut or a shorthand syntax, and at that point you can recall this syntax, maybe Google it, and you'll discover it very quickly. So basically this stuff is the exact same thing as line 5. It takes whatever a is currently, it adds whatever's on the right side, in this case it's 5, and then it outputs, or rather assigns that result back to the original variable, which is a. So if I output a right here, keep in mind that we've commented out line 5, so it's not valid. We get the same result. This a is equal to 10. We're then adding 5 to a and overwriting the result in a. So a is now 15. And there we have it on the right, 10 and 15. In fact, these shortcuts for reassignments actually exist on all mathematical operators in Ruby. So let's take a look at a couple more. Let's take a look at subtraction and multiplication. Let's now create a variable b. I'm going to set b equal to 100. And let's say I wanted to subtract 50 from b. That's pretty simple. Same idea. B minus 50 is going to give us 50. We can see it right here on the right. If I wanted to reassign this back to b, I can do b equals b minus 50. Again, this is possible because this part happens first. This evaluates to 50, and only then is the b variable pointed back to the result, which is going to be 50, and thus b is changed from being 100 to now being 50. What is the shorthand for what we just wrote on line 13? It's exactly what you'd think it'd be. B minus equals 50. Again, what this does is take the present value of b, subtract 50 from it, and then assign the result back to b. What we have here on line 14 accomplishes the exact same thing as line 13. It's a hard syntax, I know, but every time, again, you see the same variable on both sides of the equal sign, think of how you can refactor it. The reason people generally prefer this approach, as you can see, is because it requires a little bit less typing, a little bit less characters. You're going to see the syntax a lot as you look at professional Ruby code. Finally, let's conclude with the same look at the multiplication operator, which you may recall is the asterisk or the star. So let's say I have a variable c, which is equal to 3. If I wanted to multiply c by 4, we know that's going to equal 12. We can see it output right there. If I wanted to assign this result back to c, what I can do is simply do c equals c asterisk 4, c times 4. This gets evaluated, the result gets assigned back to c. If I output c right here, and I output c right below the second operation, we can see we're going to get 3 and 12. C has been properly reassigned. What is the shorthand for this operation on line 20? It's exactly what you think would be c asterisk equals 4. Take the current value in c, multiply it by 4. Once you get the result, assign it back to c. What we're doing on lines 20 and 21 is the exact same thing, two different syntactical options for the exact same operation. Hopefully you're starting to get a sense how it works. It's just the symbol or the arithmetic symbol that we've used, in this case the plus sign, the minus sign, the asterisk, followed by the equal sign, and then the value that you actually want to do the operation with on the right. On the left, of course, we're keeping the variable that we want to use for that operation as the starting point. So as an exercise for this lesson, I'd like you to practice the exact same thing with the division, the modulo, and the power or exponent operator. So that's going to be these symbols, the slash, and the equivalent for that, of course, is going to be slash equals when we're reassigning. We also have the modulo, which, as you may recall, gives us the remainder, and we have predictably a modulo equals operator. And finally, the power operator, which is the double asterisk. What that does, of course, is multiplies a number to a certain power. So 2 double asterisk 3 is 2 times 2 times 2, which gives us 8. And of course, the reassignment operator for that is asterisk asterisk equals. So play around with this. Simply come up with 3 more examples, just like I did above. First, practice doing the more literal way of writing it out, where you have the variable name on both sides of the equal sign, and then practice with these shorthands that we have right here on lines 24, 27, and 30 to see if you can get a good memory hold on this general idea, this general shortcut. So that's a quick introduction to assignment and reassignment using these unique different operators in Ruby.